What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Whitmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Sports Live right here. You may be watching us on Twitch for now. You're definitely watching us on YouTube. I am joined, as I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Jake Neverman.
How we doing?
Jake, how are you doing on this beautiful Friday edition? Like, you know Friday. I'm hyped. It's Friday, baby.
It's Friday. It's a good day. It's nice out. We got a little workout in earlier. It's pretty nice.
You got to say it right. You got to sing it right, Jake. It's Friday. Talking NBA on Friday.
Yeah. Oh, talking NBA makes any day better, especially a Friday.
I mean, yeah, the season ends this weekend. We've got play-in tournament basketball starting on Monday because, why not start the actual playoffs and just do a play-in tournament that probably won't matter, but I hope that they're interesting games next week. What up, Eric, in Twitch chat? But, yeah, today's all NBA. If you're new to the show, this is where we talk about all the happenings going on in the sports world. How we do it, though, is we set up individual days. This day is NBA. And this whole week has kind of been NBA, except for that one Thursday. What? You making fun of my voice getting a little higher?
No, I was saying we're talking NBA every day.
Oh, okay. I thought you were making fun of how the voice went a little higher right there.
The voice went a little higher.
Can you take me higher?
Oh, okay.
Such a good fucking song. Such a good song.
You want to support us? No, I'm kidding.
But we are talking NBA today, talking Bulls, talking Wizards, talking NBA draft. Before we get into everything, we're no longer going to be on Twitch. We're going to go over to YouTube full time. So after next week, so starting May 24th, the only place to catch us live will be at YouTube MVP Sports, link down below, or you can go and type MVP Sports into YouTube to go ahead and find us there May 24th. That is where you'll be able to catch the live shows. If you're not in the Discord, you're behind the 8 ball. It is truly the greatest community in the universe. That link down below or ! Discord into Twitch chat gets you that link. And then last but not least, if you do want to support us, like Jake mentioned, you can go ahead and check out patreon.com/MVPvids. You can get rewarded for supporting us. And thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. That should be all the housekeeping then I need, because I don't have to say the last part because I now replaced it with the first part. But Jake, first thing we are talking about today, and it's a little weird because usually whenever we talk about this team, it is Dave and I, and we Bulls echo chamber it, and we go for about 40 minutes and go, oh shit, we got like 2 other things to talk about. It looks like we're going over.
Won't be happening today, folks.
But there are rumblings coming out that the Bulls, what I'm looking at is from NBC Sports Chicago, it says report, Bulls may target Lonzo Ball, Dennis Schroder in the offseason. I have seen articles that have said that it is strongly likely that the Bulls will go heavy into Lonzo Ball or Dennis Schroder. The exact quote that NBC Sports had, it says, before the Bulls beat the Celtics in a national televised game last Friday, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski said on NBA Countdown to expect the Bulls to target the 2 biggest free agent point guards on the market this offseason, Lonzo and Dennis Schroder. His exact quote was, point guard is going to be a premium for them. The Bulls are expected to make dramatic changes to their roster this offseason,
Thank God.
looking to build a real playoff team around Levine and Vucevic. Don't be surprised if Lauri Markkanen is on the move and solid players like Tomas Satoransky and Garrett Temple end up in new homes as the Bulls search for upgrades. Jake, Lonzo Ball, we know the contract with him. We've talked about it until we are blue in the face. He is an RFA after this season. I believe Dennis Schroder, I'm pulling up, Dennis Schroder is a UFA. Lonzo is an RFA. What are your thoughts on this? I know it's a no-brainer that the Bulls would go for Lonzo and Dennis Schroder, but in your mind, do any of these point guards really fix the problem for the Bulls?
Yeah, first of all, I have to take a quote away from that article you said. They said the 2 biggest point guard free agents, well, Mike Conley and Kyle Lowry are both better than both of the guys you named.
Mike Conley might be going back to Utah if they go to a Western Conference Finals.
Well, good thing they won't be going to the Western Conference Finals. But yes, he could still be ending up back in Utah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't think I've ever actually spoken on the show, but if you do join the Discord, you're in the Discord, you know my love of Lonzo Ball. You know
Hmm.
that I'm a big Lonzo Ball defender. People like to hate on him because he's quote unquote inconsistent, but guess what? That's what a shooter is he
Hmm.
inconsistent. And isn't it weird that now Lonzo Ball is labeled as a shooter? But the Pelicans roster with Eric Bledsoe and Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson all trying to be ball handlers. Lonzo Ball has really been relegated to this wing catch and shoot role, and that's basically all he's been able to do. I mean, the real weaknesses with Lonzo game we know are his dribble drive game, and
Hmm.
his finishing around the rim. That's basically all that he's weak at. His passing, his shooting, and his defense are all great, and those are three things the Bulls need to add. Is they need to add defense, shooting, and passing. The passing is the number one thing, and Lonzo brings a near elite passer to this team, which is something they need. As for Dennis Schroder, I don't really think it makes any sense.
Hmm.
I don't really look at Dennis Schroder as a primary ball handler on a winning team. I know as the Lakers, he is a more of a secondary when LeBron's actually healthy, a secondary ball handler, which is more of his role. And
Yeah.
I don't think adding another inefficient scorer and not a great shooter from distance in Dennis Schroder is the best idea if you are the Chicago Bulls. I think a Kyle Lowry would be great. I think a Mike Conley would be great. The Bulls are in a position where they're going to have to probably overpay somebody to come to Chicago to be their point guard. And Lonzo, Lowry, or Mike Conley being one of those guys would be great. Dennis Schroeder, I would stay away from.
Whoop, I didn't have my mic unmuted. The one thing that I just realized, Jake, did not realize this through all of games live is
No.
you know this as we talk in Discord quite a bit. My room here gets really fucking hot. It
Mm.
is probably the sauna of my house, and usually I have the fan on. And I was like, it sounds like I'm like, what's in the background? So I'm like, oh, I didn't turn off my fan. So that's why
Mm.
it felt really cool in here. But I'm like, I'm gonna turn that off just to see if there was too much background noise. Maybe there wasn't, and I'm gonna fucking sweat for no reason. But Lonzo Ball is the wet dream.
Yeah.
Like he is the like I agree with you. Like the thing with Schroeder is I don't know if it's the Schroeder can't be say what you said again. He can't be the main point guard on a
I
contending
don't think
team.
that he is a primary ball handler on a
Okay.
winning team. Is what a team where the Bulls want to be next year. I don't think that he is the guy that you want as your primary ball handler.
Yeah, and I mean for the Bulls, I don't like I wouldn't go that far. I would say like not saying that's not true, but for the Bulls, I don't know if Dennis Schroeder is the point guard I want on this team because correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I just forget if Schroeder like actually is good at passing, but like
He's all right.
that's the thing that worries me where I feel like we need Lonzo Ball on this team. We need someone who can shoot. We need someone who could pass the ball mainly and be a facilitator with Zach and Vucevic. Like if we get a guard that's going to be a score first guard, then it's like, all right, we're basically putting a better Kobe White next to Zach, which some people may say, well, yeah, that could work too. But like passing to me is number one. Like if I was in Football Manager, Jake, and I was scouting a point guard for this
Passing.
team, passing would be like the main need, where it's like
15
that
plus.
needs to be like 20, and it can't be no lower than that. But like that's the other thing where to me, the most interesting part about the Bulls isn't even about who they're going to target. It's about this team to where like you brought up Conley and Kyle Lowry. I don't think they're in the picture. I think Kyle Lowry will stay in Utah. I think that
Kyle Lowry's going to stay in Utah.
Mike Conley, Kyle Lowry's going to go to like Philadelphia or Miami or something. Basically, he'll go to an actual fucking contender, not the Bulls.
Well, that's music to my ears.
But like I look at the other free agents, and this is from hooptype.com, and they're ranking the point guard free agents. This was back in January. I don't know why they had like. Is it wrong for them to have Isaiah Thomas listed at one?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't like they have Isaiah Thomas, Shabazz Napier, Emmanuel Mudiay listed. Like,
Wait,
yeah, it's written in January of 2021. That's what I'm looking
that's
at here.
probably current available, not actually free
Okay.
agents.
Yeah,
because
okay. Current, then it might be
yeah,
current
Emmanuel
because
Mudiay hasn't played in the NBA in like a year.
yeah,
I'm pretty
that's
sure
why
over a
I'm
year.
confused by looking at
Hmm.
this list. But the point being is, outside of Lonzo and Schroeder, who really is there out there? To me, the more interesting part is, what the fuck are we gonna do with this team? Like,
Yeah.
mainly Kobe White and Lowry Markkinen are the two that I look at and go, I want to see if they get moved, because the thing that I'm waiting for is, will Kobe get moved for a draft pick? Lowry Markkinen, someone's gonna want him, right? Like, someone has to
Uh,
want him. Uh,
yeah.
to where it's like, are we gonna be in a situation where someone offers Lowry a contract because he's an RFA? The Bulls match it and then say, "Hey, we're gonna talk to you about a trade because we don't want to lose out on Lowry for nothing."
I think well I've heard you and Bulls fans saying that
Uh-huh.
a lot.
I mean,
I don't know.
it's just hopeful. It's hopeful to not
Yeah,
lose Lowry Markkinen for absolutely nothing.
yeah, which is what I think is probably maybe okay, not for nothing, but you're not going to get near any value for Larry Markkinen, especially when he's leaving. Maybe you get like a lower end bench piece or something like
Mm-hmm.
that for Larry Markkinen, which is I don't know exactly what team would be interested in Larry Markkinen.
Mm-hmm.
There will be teams that emerge, I assume, obviously in the coming months. We don't
Yeah.
like this is a weird part of the season we're in where we're now going to start hearing what these, I mean, bottom feeders teams
Mm-hmm.
like these teams in the lottery, what their offseason plans are, but we won't hear about many of the playoff teams outside of Portland and Terry Stotts. So that's really all that we've heard.
Yeah.
Everybody else waits to see how their season ends and then things develop. So I don't know exactly where Lowry's going to end up or who's going to be interested, but
Mm-hmm.
somebody will. And the fact of the matter is that you probably are going to have to take just the pain of losing him for near nothing or
Yeah.
nothing at all, just because restricted free agency is a pool of death. Because if you match the offer and sign
Mm-hmm.
him and then try to work out a deal and you can't find a deal, he's on your team until February.
Yeah.
So it's a do or die situation. I think it'll be interesting to see how much money he gets, but I think you
How
shouldn't
much? How
sacrifice
much would you offer him?
$0.
I, if you realistically were looking at him, Jake, like,
He'll
because
probably get like 15 million a year
okay,
would be my assumption.
because I've heard between the 15 million is realistically 17 and a half being like the some people going that's as high as I'll pay him, and then obviously what he's looking for is about 20 mil a year.
Yeah, most of these restricted free agents you'll throw into like 5 margins. Like
Mhm.
Lonzo's in the 20 to 25 million.
Yeah.
I think Lowry's in the 15 to 20. Um, it'll be interesting. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't restricted free agency is not something that I've had to deal with personally with my team that much, which is
Yeah.
thankful. I don't know exactly. Like I remember when it was Zach and it was the Kings. The Kings and I think the Nets did it a couple years ago, where they were literally just throwing out these deals to basically force the
Yeah.
hand of the other teams and either make them match it um or they would take them and it'd be whatever
Mhm.
because they got a better player than they had. They didn't care about cap space. So I don't
Yeah.
know if there's many of those teams out there right now. But I mean, it should be interesting to see what happens with Larry.
And Eric says he's surprised that mid-tier players cost
Well,
that much.
it's not mid tier player. You're betting on potential as well in restricted free agency. That's
Mhm.
mostly what it is. Lonzo is going to get 20 to 25 million because it's a player that he could become if his dribble
Yeah.
drive game becomes a little bit more consistent.
And with
I mean, he's
Lowry, you're betting on, is he going to be injured or not?
or if he can make shots when he's open.
Yeah. I mean, this year he's been better. Like, he's
Yeah.
got career high numbers in 3-point shooting, but like, even the quote that I know I read for you, I don't know if everyone saw this, so I'll bring it up. Casey Johnson, this was after the game against the Raptors 2 nights ago. Donovan on whether Markkinen is playing for his Bulls life. I haven't had any conversations with Arturas or Mark on that. I would just say this. I really, really love Lowry as a player. He's a great guy, and he has been an incredible teammate, and he has sacrificed a lot. So, like, when I read that, I was like, I can believe that Billy D has not talked to Arturas about anything. Mainly, they yes, they're in the same room, but like, I could see where Billy D's like, hey, I voiced my concerns. Arturas knows what I want for this team. It's his job to build the team. It's my job to coach the team, being on
Yeah.
that kind of a wavelength. But like, I do believe that like Lowry Markkinen, like the other question mark is Kobe for this team.
Yeah.
Do you think because like Kobe White is someone that I think like if we're gonna trade Lowry Markkinen, it has to be after free agency. So it's obviously after the draft. To me, I look at Kobe White because I know that like Bulls articles like the one I looked at today, Casey Johnson put one out on NBC Sports on Twitter where he said basically he put like 2 players up and it was like numbers aren't everything, but find out like who the 2 players are, and one of them was Kobe White and one of them was a different point guard. Kobe White is interesting to me because do the Bulls try to move him? Like, do they try to move him and a Garrett Temple to try to get a late first round pick, or are the Bulls just going in on veterans to try to make the playoffs?
Yeah, Kobe White's a giant, I'd say, enigma with this franchise because, I mean, we've obviously, again, and if you're not in the Discord, we've had pretty heated discussions about Kobe White in the past, and I know where I stand on him is that I think he's good, but I think he's a bench point guard, and he's doing this thing where at the end of the year, he has like 7-8 games that go against the 90% of the games he played the entire season, and he's playing very well at the end of the season, which is good in terms of if you're looking to move him, he's boosting your value. I don't know. I don't know his future on this team because one, I get that they're winning at the end of the year and I understand it, but he does not fit next to Zach LaVine in the starting lineup in a winning team. I'm sorry, the defense is not enough against a winning team, especially in the playoffs. Maybe in the regular season they could win, but Kobe White as a 6th man leading the second unit is where he's supposed to end up. And if they can get the whole thing I've been saying is that if they can get enough talent to replace him and a 3 in the starting lineup, then this team becomes interesting. Or if you can get a 4 who has rim protection, Evan Mobley, and you put Patrick Williams at the 3 and you get a new point guard and Kobe White can slide to the bench. That's the dream scenario. Kobe might have to be traded, but in the dream scenario, you don't, and he can run your second unit.
And am I looking at this weird to where, first off, I will say, throwing it out, a shout out to Ant AM says he saw us on YouTube. Want to say keep up the great work. Glad you enjoy the video and the content. And thank you for watching our stuff. But am I looking at this in a wrong direction as a Bulls fan? Where not necessarily Kobe White, but even like when the article for NBC Sports Live mentioned Tomas Satoransky, although they spelled it wrong with an I instead of a Y, or Garrett Temple. Is AK going to be targeting a late first round pick, or is AK even in trades going to try to target a veteran like we see in free agency? Obviously, free agencies are veterans, but like targeting the Lonzo, targeting the Dennis Schroder. Is he going to have the same strategy in trades of like, I don't want a draft pick. I don't want someone that's going to take 2 to 3 years. Because really at the late first, like some of those guys might need to develop just like an early second round pick. They just have more potential than the second round pick.
Yeah.
Is AK going to look for a veteran? It's like, I want a guy that's going to help Zach and Vuce win now.
Yeah, I think the veteran outlook is what. See, if we would have had this discussion prior to the Vucevic trade, I would have said that they're looking to go young, blah, blah, blah.
But now we have Vucevic.
Now you have Vucevic, and you kind of accelerated the timeline where I don't think this team with LaVine and Vucevic ever going to win the title, but this team with LaVine and Vucevic can get to a top 5 seed in the East with the right pieces around them. Yeah. Unless they had like a bona fide superstar somehow, then they could win a title. But if Vucevic and LaVine are 1-2, it's not a bad 1-2. It's just that it's probably not a championship winning 1-2. So if you want to go to the playoffs, which I think is the ultimate goal right now, I think he was told you probably have a 2 to 3 year window get us back into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I would assume that veterans are what he wants, unless, I mean, this is the difference, though. If people fall in love with prospects and they find somebody at the end of a 1 and you find a 4-year college player who's ready to step in, say like a Jeremiah Earl Robinson, that could be a guy the Bulls target if they want to get a late first, simply because he's going to step right in, be an NBA player, and be a good role player. So maybe that's the option. I would think he's going for more veterans. I wouldn't really think that he's going towards young guys and rookies just because it doesn't make sense with the timeline with the Vucevic trade.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, though, with the Bulls. Like, Soap even says, I think the Bulls should attempt to bring in a vet because they're still in need of leadership and playoff experience. The only question comes down to is, what type of vet are you going to, like, what type of vet are you going to be able to get via trade versus what kind of a vet are you looking for? Like, are we looking for and I'm saying this as like a spectrum kind of a thing. Are we looking for a Vucevic type of vet where it's like top end player via trade? Or is it like, okay, free agency, Lonzo Ball is that Vucevic, Levine type of vet. Through a trade, I'm looking for like a Thad Young kind of a vet. A guy who, yeah, the numbers don't jump off the page, but you look at his play, and well, you do look at his numbers and you go, he brings leadership. He brings experience
Yeah.
to this team. Like, I would say the one thing that has helped Kobe White this entire season is Thad Young and his relationship with Thad Young. Because not only does Kobe White and Thad Young mention each other every time there's a microphone in their face, that is something that you want to see from a young player and a vet of like, hey, I can go to this guy to help me get better, to make the team better.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of these teams like I'll highlight the Sixers is when they take that jump is when they add these veterans around them who have won.
Yeah.
You had a Danny Green, you had a Dwight Howard, you had a Doc Rivers as coach.
Jimmy Butler.
Wait, what?
Jimmy Butler.
Well, no, they didn't.
I'm
What?
just throwing out that Jimmy was a great piece for that team and shouldn't have been let go. That's besides the point.
Okay.
Jake's like, thanks for bringing that back up.
It's all right. We're a better team without him. Next question. Yes, I think that they should look for a better. See, this is a question. There's a lot of questions around the Bulls. Like you look at Billy Donovan. I don't like him as a coach to begin with. But if you're looking to build, then I think he's fine. Maybe get into the playoffs. He's a fine coach. If you're looking to ultimately win and win large, you need to add these veterans that we talked about. That's why I know that you said he's out of the park. But Kyle Lowry would be perfect for this team at point guard.
Do you think
If
he wants to come to Chicago? Like, that's the thing where Garrett Temple has said in a quote that he thinks Chicago is going to become a free agent destination again. But like, I look at Kyle Lowry and I go, I would love to have him.
Mm-hmm.
Would he come to Chicago, or is he at the point of his career to where it's like, if I'm leaving Toronto, I'm going to a team that is in finals contention, not trying to just break into the playoffs?
Agreed. The only thing is we don't know what his intentions are. Does he just want another payday? If the Bulls come and offer him $30 million a year for 2 years, is he going to take the contract? So that's the question we're sitting on. Maybe he does take a veterans minimum or a mid-level exception and go to a different team this summer. We don't know. That's what you have to wait and see. But even a Mike Conley, if you throw a bunch of money at Mike Conley, again, he's a perfect fit at point guard, a good defensive guard, good at distributing, and he fits right next to Levine. And he can shoot. I actually just saw he's coming back tonight. He's coming back from injury tonight. So it just depends what you want. I said, and I've said for a while, is that the Bulls are going to have to overpay to improve this roster.
Yeah.
And it's not like you look at the Sixers with Tobias Harris. Yeah, did they overpay? 1,000,000%. But they need that kind of guy on the roster? 100%. So if the Bulls are looking at a Mike Conley and he wants over $30 million a year for 3 to 4 years, I would think about it, because overpaying somebody is how you make this roster better, especially when they're not a main destination for free agents. So AK has shown ambition in trades already. Now we have to see if he does it in free agency as well. He hasn't really made a bad signing yet. It's going to be interesting to see what this summer is really going to form a lot of his tenure with the Bulls. If it's a long one, if it's a short one, it's going to be down to just this summer.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with Ant in Twitch chat, where he says, if you're setting yourself up for the next 3 to 4 years, then get Schroder. If you want Lonzo, that'll be your main point guard for the future. And he says, I'm pretty high on Zoe. I think Zoe's the guy. It's like, for me, I hate to say this because, like, if we got a Dennis Schroder, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But for me, my mindset is Zoe or bust. Zoe or bust.
Yeah.
Because Lonzo Ball would set this team up to where it's like, yes, I feel confident in it. Schroder wouldn't be bad, but I would still have questions going forward. Let's move on. Let's go into the next thing we're going to talk about. And I think I found... So when you said it was in the Discord, you were talking about the Pippen Ain't Easy article that was posted?
I didn't read the article. I just saw that. I just read the headline.
It was a Bulls rumor article, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure I have the right article up there. So basically, there's Bradley Beal talk now, where this article from Andrew Miller is getting it. He's curating it from Casey Johnson, Bulls Insider. Of course, my tablet can't keep a page loaded for more than 2 seconds. According to a report from Casey Johnson on May 13th, the Bulls could at least consider the Washington Wizards' Bradley Beal as a potential trade target this offseason. Question I want to ask you, Jake, is not necessarily about the Bulls, but about the Wizards. Should they trade Bradley Beal this offseason?
Yeah, see, this is tough with how well they've played late in the season. But I think you have to consider it. I think listening to Bradley Beal offers isn't the worst thing. I think not necessarily being like, we're going to trade you, but he's shown fierce loyalty. So it's kind of going, this is where we get into this discussion of like loyalty from players compared to loyalty from teams, which is a completely different, like, it's just weird in the NBA. The only problem is that I'm pretty sure Bradley Beal's contract is up after next season.
Player op after, so he's got a $37 million player op after next year.
Okay, so that's where it comes into question. Is if you're the Wizards, I think you have to sit down with Beal and see if he'll sign another extension. If he won't, then you begin the trade talks. I think Bradley Beal is an interesting player because I think he's obviously one of the best scorers in the NBA, but I'm not sure he makes players around him better. So that's one of the worries, especially. I mean, we just talked about the Bulls. Like, they were a team that's rumored to trade for him. I don't really understand that unless Levine's leaving, because Beal and Levine are the same thing.
Unless
and then Bradley
it's a
Beal,
Levine-Beal trade, because Levine's up at the end of the year.
Yeah, which I don't think would make sense for either team. But I think like a Bradley Beal.
I mean, like for the fucking Wizards, I'd love it because then you get Levine next to Russ. You get him next to an actual point guard.
Yeah, but also I don't think that it would just be Levine for Beal. I think the Bulls would probably have to throw other things in there. Yeah. I think a team like Miami could come knocking for Bradley Beal. I think a team like Philly could come knocking for Bradley Beal. It all depends how the seasons end. Maybe a team like Milwaukee, if they get out in the second round, and they throw Chris Middleton out there and see what the interest gauge on that is.
Does a team like, let's say, I'm gonna go panic mode here, but let's say they don't get to the finals at any point. Let's say the Lakers get bounced in the play-in tournament or get bounced in the Western Conference Finals. Do they try to make a move to add Bradley Beal to LeBron and AD?
See, the only problem with the Lakers is that I'm not sure what a package would look like, especially with cap room. With LeBron and AD on maxes.
Well, if my tablet stays loaded for a second, I will work out a package, Jake.
Well, the only guy at the Wizard that the Lakers have even somewhat offering is Talen Horton-Tucker.
What about Kyle Kuzma?
I mean, as a salary filler, maybe. I don't think he's like as a salary filler, sure. But if you're looking to trade Bradley Beal, you're trying to get picks and young talent. The Lakers don't have picks, and they have very few young talent players. Well, Talen Horton-Tucker is a good young player. I don't think he's anything great. So that's where the question comes: is what would a trade even look like with the Lakers? That's my question with that one. I don't think it's a bad team. It would be a good fit for Beal, but again, I don't think there's an avenue for that trade to get done.
Because let's see and yet again, it's hard to do a trade on like Trade Machine right now because the contracts are going to change for next year, but they're ballparked. The Lakers would need to find about $28 million. Let's see if his salary goes up next year. About $34 million to find in that deal to where it's like, you're right. They might not have a big enough contract to make that work.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think any playoff contender team that is like one piece away could look like obviously fit-wise. Like, it's going to be interesting. Even the team like a Boston Celtics, I'm not sure there's really a fit there, but I mean, if you could add another dominant wing, the Celtics love their wings, their wangs.
Who do you trade though if you're Boston? Like, they're not going to move. They're not going to move on from Kemba. Just don't even.
Kemba's going to get traded
because it ain't going to happen.
Kemba's going to get traded somewhere this summer.
Think so, like,
I'm telling you, he is. Because it's Danny Ainge. He finds a way to get rid of these crippled players. That, I mean, it's a huge question mark with the Celtics in general. What their offseason is going to look like. There aren't many teams that I would think would, like, obviously there's a lot of teams that would want.
You know who will get a deal done?
The Warriors.
They will get the T-Wolves pick. They will give them the T-Wolves pick, their own pick, and find a way to make the salary work. And they will have then their starting lineup. What if they were able to do it and keep Wiggins?
No,
and
they
then
have to trade
had
Wiggins.
like
There's no possible way to get it done without Wiggins.
Hey, and we say that, and then the Warriors get it done. I'm just saying.
No. Think about their lineup: getting rid of Wiggins and putting Beal in there. It'd be fucking Steph, Clay.
Clay. It would be no. Steph, Beal, Wiggins, Clay at the 4, Draymond at the 5.
No, it'd be Steph, Clay, Beal, Draymond, and Wiseman. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, but I'm saying if they kept Wiggins.
There's no way you can keep Wiggins.
Yet again, with the Warriors, never. I never say never.
Unless they're trading one of Clay, Draymond, or Steph. There's no way to get it done without trading Wiggins.
Maybe they trade Draymond. So be Steph at the Clay at the 4. It works. It would work. Trust me. Positionless basketball, my guy. Positionless basketball. You don't play positions anymore. You're just out there on the court.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are actually a candidate. Again, I'm not sure currently in the system he plays, and this is why it's so hard to rate Wizards players, is because Scott Brooks is the worst coach in the NBA. Well, now Russell Wilson's bailing him out that he might actually keep his job next year.
Or is Russell Westbrook the only player that Scotty Brooks knows how to coach and bring to the playoffs?
No, because earlier in the year
big brain.
Early in the year they were awful, so I wouldn't say that.
Took a little gel time, but like, I'm glad you bring that up though, because that's what I was thinking. To where like, this is Russ's team now. Like, I know you talked about early, like when we started the segment, you were like, well, you got the player loyalty and the loyalty to the team. I think this is turning into Russ's team with the press that we get around the Wizards being about Russ. The coach being like, they brought in Russ because Scotty Brooks wanted Russ on this team. The leadership aspects that Dave always talks about. The story that Dave loves to bring up where Russ went around to everyone in the locker room.
Where's Dave?
Think this was in Houston.
Just bring Dave because he's a Russell Westbrook stan.
Where he was like, what's your role on this team? But like, I feel like this Wizards team's turning into a Russ team to where I don't know if it's the team going to be saying like, well, fuck you, Bradley. We don't care about you anymore. But I think he will be the exposable piece or the expendable piece is what I'm trying to say. It's just like the Warriors I could see trading for him. One team that I was going to ask about, could the Bucks trade for him?
That's why I brought them up.
Like, because that's the thing where it's like you mention them, but like, will they actually trade for him? And what would that deal look like? Like, would they have to get rid of Chris Mid or Drew?
Yeah, it'd have to, especially with Giannis signing the Supermax, they'd have to get rid of one of the other two. I don't think it would be Drew Holiday. It'd probably be Klay Thompson, Chris Middleton. Especially it depends who their next coach is, if/when they get eliminated from the playoffs. So that has a lot to do with it. I would love to see Bradley Beal, Drew Holiday, and Giannis. I think that would be an incredible trio. I would love to see exactly how it would play out. I think probably a little worse volume shooter than Chris Middleton is, but he adds creativity and ball handling, which is something they need in the playoffs when Giannis kind of gets shut down. So I'm interested to see it. I'm not sure they'd actually do the deal, but it'd be interesting to hear if the rumors ever do come out that they'd have to at least look into it.
So can I throw out a crazy team? A Ricky's crack pipe team.
Here we go.
They would have to keep their pick though.
Okay.
The Timberwolves.
I would hate that.
Here's my crack pipe theory with this. Does it happen? No. But the thing I throw out with that is in this situation, they would have to be like the third pick. Because I feel like if you're at 1 or 2, Cade or Mobley is just maybe too much to pass up on. But if you're at 3 and JG4 is there, there's a part in my mind that goes, would I want to add JG4 or try to involve a deal that would involve the 3rd overall pick, which the Wizards would be interested in?
Yeah.
Ricky Rubio would be in the deal, and you might say, well, Ricky Rubio's nothing to write home about. He could be a good piece for the Wizards, and he's on the last year of his deal then at that point, so the Wizards aren't stuck with him. Yet again, what is Malik Beasley's trade stock like after his hashtag off the court issues?
We say
Because
hashtag on the court.
on the court, he's 14 mil next year for salary. Yep. And like, they have those contracts. If you want to include a Jarrett Culver, if the Warriors would like that, and then draft picks to try to make it work, like, that's a team I could see getting it done. The Wizards could then get a top 3 pick. They could use a guy like JG4 next to Russ. And then if you're the T-Wolves, your lineup, love it or hate it, would be D'Lo at the 1, Bradley Beal or Ant 2-3, wherever you want to play them. Then basically Cat at the 5, and then you'd have Jaden McDaniels or Juancho at the 4. Like, yet again, the roster's not done, but your backcourt would be basically D'Lo, Bradley Beal, and Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but I would hate that trade for the Timberwolves. Wow. They have something. They have something that they're building right now with D'Lo and Cat that is very good.
Yeah.
They need a point guard, not a Bradley Beal on this team, because D'Lo is very good. But if you can move D'Lo to the wing and play him off ball and have Ant and D'Lo on the wings, Cat down low, and then whoever spacing in the corner for the 4, this is the dream Cade Cunningham team. So if they're sitting there,
I'm saying like if they're at 3 and they're not getting Cade, if they're 1, take Cade. Don't even think about the trade.
If they're sitting there at 3, then I would take Mobley or Suggs, whoever's sitting there. Honestly, I think that's the perfect fit for them. I'm not thrilled on the idea of D'Lo and Beal as a backcourt would be like an open door policy. They would get scored on relentlessly. Would they score a lot of points?
The T-Wolves are an open door policy in general. Like,
yeah, I know, but I'm saying you need to improve that problem, not add to it. I also think that adding Beal to this team and taking touches away from guys like Anthony Edwards and Cat, which is what Beal does, is not a great idea. I think getting a guy like Cade or getting a point guard in general, whoever that is, and giving them better looks or more touches would be a better idea instead of giving assets up for kind of a role you already have is progressing into already a primary playmaker since the new regime has come in.
The only other teams that, like, yet again, the teams I'm thinking of are probably ones that don't get a deal done, but it would be intriguing. One I will throw out there, yet again, this is are we overthinking it kind of a thing, and kind of playing back to the Kawhi trade in senses. Is it just something as simple as Portland has a 2 guard that they might be getting rid of? The Wizards have a 2 guard that they are getting rid of. Maybe the Portland Trailblazers think, hey, a backcourt of Dame and Beal would be a lot better than a backcourt of CJ and Dame. And then the Wizards could basically say, hey, this trade works for us because CJ has, I think it's like a year or 2 extra on his contract to where it matches up better with Russ, and it comes up to where him and Russ are done at the same, so we have a smoother timeline. Could it be something just as easy as that? A deal revolved around Bradley Beal going to Portland, CJ McCollum going to Washington.
It's not a bad idea. I don't think it would ever come to fruition just because I don't think that either of those players solved either of the problems for each other's teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do the homer pick here. I think Bradley Beal and Philly would, if he actually does become a rumor, would be a legitimate rumor because the Sixers have all of their picks, they have young talent, and they have contracts to make it work. So if you're looking for a Bradley Beal for Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey in a first-round pick, that could easily be a trade that gets done.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris helps them in their front court, which is something they need, and they already have their center of the future in Gaff Daddy and Daniel Gafford now. He's been balling out since he went there.
The Gaff Daddy.
Not actually, but Thomas Bryant will be back next year. Him and Gafford should be all right as a center rotation. You added Tobias Harris on the wing or at the 4 on that team, somebody who can play around a Russ like that. And you get Tyrese Maxey in a first-round pick. Not saying as a Sixers fan that I would do that deal, but that could easily be something that is rumored to come out, especially because Philly is going to be in the trade market if they go out in the 2nd or 3rd round just because of all the assets they have.
Thing from Twitch chat I want to bring in here is Kyler Murray MVP says they've been talking about moving CJ for over 3 years.
True.
I'll see it when it happens. Only reason I'm seriously bringing it up here is the stuff we've heard about Terry Stotts being on the hot seat. I feel like if they fire Stotts, they're finally breaking up the backcourt of Dame and CJ.
I'd agree.
Like,
Yeah.
if they fire Stotts, that's them actually showing like we're going to change. Soapy, I would love to know why you don't like the idea of Beal and Dame.
I don't like
And
it either. But
is
that's
there a
me.
reason why I shouldn't like that? Is that just me
It's not.
2K'ing it?
It is definitely you 2K'ing it. It doesn't look at the problems currently they have with CJ and Dame. Is that they don't have
just
enough money or enough
amplifies it.
creativity. What?
It just amplifies it because he's.
It doesn't
you know,
amplify it.
Bradley
It just
Beal.
kind of like trades it for the same problem. Is you get another guy who's. I mean, Beal is a better player than CJ McCollum, and are the Blazers good? It's not that I don't hate it and I don't love it. I don't think it moves the needle enough for the Blazers to make the move.
The only other team I look at and I go, okay, this one might be interesting. The Pelicans.
Yeah.
If they're a team like, because we talked about them with the Bulls, let's say they do lose Lonzo. They could have they'll have an opening there, but they are a team that has their draft picks. They have some young talent that I think can entice the Washington Wizards. Like, I think Jackson Hayes would be a young talent that would be included in that deal. I don't know if they try to include Eric Bledsoe in that deal because
No, Bledsoe would probably stay.
I mean, like, if they lose Lonzo, Lewis Jr. is then their point guard. I think
Bledsoe already is their point guard right now.
Yeah, but
Lonzo's a shooting guard.
I'm saying, like, eventually you want Kira to be your or Kyra,
they love Kira Lewis
to be the point guard of the future. But like, if you lose Lonzo, I feel like that's a team to where it's like the only hurdle you have to get over is finding the right players to make A, contract work, and B, make the Wizards happy on top of all the draft picks that you have, because they have the Laker ammo that they could use in that. And then what? Could you imagine a team that's basically led by Zion, Brandon Ingram, and Bradley Beal?
You ready for it?
What?
Imagine Bradley Beal goes to the Pelicans, and it's a sign and trade for Lonzo Ball to go to the Wizards. Russell Westbrook and Lonzo would be a good backcourt. It would solve a lot. He adds defense, which they need.
I didn't want to speak that into existence, Jake, because I wanted it to be a 3-team deal with the Bulls where Lonzo goes to the Bulls.
Lonzo to the Wizards would be a very good acquisition for them. I Beal on the Pelicans, I don't hate it. I don't love it again because I think Brandon Ingram and him kind of mold over each other.
They they don't mesh is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, like they're the same, not the same player, but they're kind of the same role and same mold that you look at wings. That's an interesting idea. I don't know if I'd necessarily ever see it happening, but I would love to see Lonzo on the Wizards.
Like, outside of that, the only other teams I'm looking at is like the Nuggets. Do they have enough to make that? Like, let's say Aaron Gordon doesn't pan out, Gary Harris ain't on that team anymore.
No, Gary Harris is gone.
But like, that's a team where it's like, nah, I don't see it. Everyone else is just like either stuck where they are to where they're not going to make a move for Beal, or they're bad enough. Just does he get moved to a bad team and the Wizards just go, fuck it, you're on a bad team now because they gave us what we wanted?
I don't think so. I think it's too much. I think Beal would almost have his choice of where he wants to go with the Wizards. I think that is one of those relationships between it's kind of the Lowry situation.
Could the Pacers be a team that try to make a run for him?
I mean, I don't know what the Pacers are going to do this offseason anyways.
They're fringe, like they're a playoff team, but they're not a contender.
They have to get themselves figured out first with their whole head coaching situation and everything before I think about a guy like Bradley Beal getting moved there.
Good point. Jake, what we are going to end the show on today is a little draft conversation, and it's kind of a broad draft conversation because you and I, before the show, you voiced it, I agreed with it. We've talked ad nauseum about the top 4 guys. Basically, Cade, Mobley, JG4, Jalen Suggs. We've argued to basically the moon and back to what the order should be, who's better than who. We're still going to have those conversations. But today, we're going to dive outside the top 4. So just to set this up for you guys, it's not going to be like, oh, we're going to talk about the 60th ranked prospects. No, we're probably going to stay in the top 10. But we're going to talk about guys who are not Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, and JG4. Jake, I'm going to open the floor to you. I'm not going to... There's a couple guys that I'm like, I could start off with this. I'm going to put the ball in your court, though. I'm passing it to you. Who outside the top 4 intrigues you the most if the top four are off the board at 5?
Josh Giddey. I think I talked a little bit on Josh Giddey before. I love Josh Giddey's upside in his game. He is a a primary ball handler who also has wing tendencies, who's a good shooter, can finish around the rim, and has the ability to dribble drive, and consistently doesn't really have many weaknesses. His on ball defense can be a little bit of a question coming into the NBA, but his off ball defense, being able to cut passing lanes. I mean, Ricky and I were sitting in a Discord call a week ago, and I was watching the Australian Basketball League, and I was watching this game, and he was like kind of quiet, and then overtime hit, and boom, he just took over the game and won the game for his team. He's an incredible player. He has quick burst of speed. His first step isn't the greatest, but again, definitely is quick enough to be NBA ready. I mean, I know people don't like international prospects as much. He's usually sitting between like 12 to 18 on most people's boards. I think I have him 5 on my big board. I think he just has incredible upside, incredible size, and to be able to ball handle and have that shooting form at his size is at how young he is such a it's such a great thing because you don't see it a lot from guys like this. I mean, if you want to, I don't really think there is a player comp to him. He said his game's similar to Ben Simmons. Defensively, that's not true. Offensively, for the most part, it is, except for his passing's a little worse, but his shooting's a lot better. So I'm just excited to see what he turns into when he actually comes into the league.
Yeah, I mean, so Giddey is, I don't want to use the word enigma because I'm becoming higher on him like you and Dave. The one thing I can't help but like ask is, what do we see that most big board people are not seeing? To where like I've looked at like SI, I've looked at Tankathon, I've looked at like all the random big boards you can, and they all have him outside the top 10. Is there something we're missing, or is this I hate to do it because it was an NBL comparison, but is this a Lonzo Ball comparison? Not Lonzo, LaMelo Ball, to where it's are people just overanalyzing him, not seeing enough tape on him, not taking into consideration? Because like you said with this, when you were watching it, you're like, oh my God, if his fucking players could make a goddamn shot.
Yeah,
and
he made so many people wide open passes and they just brick him. Like, I think this is very similar to what we saw with Jay Sean Tatum. Played the NBL last year, was very underrated. Now he's a top 5 rookie this year. So I think a lot of situations are dictated by what team they get on and what their teammates are. But we were just talking about the Timberwolves. I think Josh Giddey would be a great fit on the Timberwolves too. Obviously, it won't happen most likely because they only can stay in the top 4. That's where it becomes more of a question of where he ends up. Like if he could end up in a team like Golden State, I think that'd be amazing. Even if he could end up on a fringe playoff team, that'd be great. I think what a lot of people see in him is just kind of, I guess, a little bit of a recklessness that he plays with, which is it definitely needs to be toned in. But his competitiveness is I don't even know what the word to say is. It's great on both sides. He gives his all every game, which is all you can ask for, especially when he's already declared for the draft and he's playing in the NBL. He could easily just give up and tap out and be like, I'm not going to try. I just want to go over with, not get hurt, and not move on to the draft. I think I don't really know what most people don't see in him. I think maybe it's it's kind of the LaMelo Ball stigma from last year. He's not on the level of LaMelo Ball, but people look at his stats and they're not like overwhelming because he plays in the NBL.
The thing I'll throw out is, first off, Ant in Twitch chat says he'll say Kai Jones. Even though he's projected around 8 to 14, he's talking like the one that most intrigues him. I want to ask you, where is Kai on your big board? Just so Twitch chat and everyone can know.
He was on my 1.0. He was around 22, but I was watching more of his film, and he's probably going to jump up. Probably in about the 11 to 15 range is where he's going to end up. He's a very raw center, but he has crazy athleticism and good shooting form. So,
and just needs to get foul calls. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. I think that big guys are so hard. Centers are so hard to judge in the NBA draft because they always come in looking freakish, like a Mo Bamba, and then it just doesn't end up right. Again, I think a lot of it depends where he ends up. But if Kai Jones can end up in a situation where he can sit behind somebody and play a backup center for a year, I think he could be very good in the future. He's not a lot of weaknesses in his game. It's just not that he's not great at anything. So a lot of it depends where he ends up. I do like Kai Jones a lot, though. He's climbed a lot on my board.
And I know I'm going to tease it again. I should have probably teased this at the start. 2 teases. 1, starting on Monday, we will have our first in a long time NBA mock draft out. That'll be my mock draft. However, that will be on patreon.com. So if you want to get it a week early starting Monday, check out Patreon. If not, the week after. I think it's the 24th. Yeah, it is the 24th. The mock draft will be released to everyone. The second tease is that eventually you and Dave are going to do a big board. Where you guys talk about your big board and go into everything. I will tease it. Eventually it will happen if I tease it enough. But for me, the thing kind of to go in and maybe like this brings in Kai Jones with Josh Giddey. When we're talking about Giddey too, the point guards in general intrigue me. And it intrigues me because where the fuck are they going to go? And the reason why I say this is for me personally, if I was ranking the point guards, I would probably have Cade at 1, Suggs at 2, Giddey at 3, Jared Butler at 4, maybe Jaden Springer at 5, Davian Mitchell, Sharif Cooper, and then the rest. Jaden Springer, I'm not high on. Like Dave goes, what about Jaden Springer? And I go, oh, you mean Kobe White? Like, he's a combo guard. He's not a true point guard. So that's why I kind of back off on him. If you need a 1 or 2 guard that can score, sure, go Jaden Springer. But if you need a true point guard, don't go with him. But all of these point guards aren't the same. And outside the top 5, like you talked about Giddey, Jared Butler, like we've talked about before, you and I just conversations that we've had, it's hard to do a straight comparison because like I've said, if I'm drafting Jared Butler, I'm drafting him for his defense, not his offense. Like you even look at Jaden Springer. If I'm drafting Jaden Springer, I'm drafting him for his scoring, not his passing or his defense. Sharif Cooper, if I'm drafting him, I'm high because apparently I like Muggsy Bogues, and I think he's going to be the best point guard since Muggsy Bogues. It's a short joke for Sharif Cooper. But the thing I think about is after really 5, because I think Kuminga will be 5. I know he's a conversation we can get to because I know you're not high on Kuminga. You look at all the other players like Kuminga, Johnson, Barnes, Kispert, Segun, Wagner, Moody, James Bouknight. I'm intrigued to see as we get closer to the draft, is it going to be where GMs and scouts kind of want the wings, like the wings and the 4s, and they're going to go, and then the point guards are going to fall to where it's like, yeah, Josh Giddey's a top 10 player on a big board, but he's going to go 15 because everyone's going to take the Scotty Barneses, the Moses Moody's, because they want that wing player over a point guard.
Yeah, I definitely could see that, and especially a winger that, I mean, he's 5. I think he's 6 on my big board. Jalen Johnson's fallen a ton for a lot of people.
Is it because of the personal issues? Is it because of how his thing ended with Ignite? I don't know if you grade it the same Duke. As that with Duke.
Yeah. I don't share those feelings at all about Jalen Johnson. I think he has a very incredible high upside for a winger, and I think we've seen this a lot with Duke's system. Is that sometimes great players play bad in Duke's system, sometimes great players play bad. I mean, they play the opposite of what their actual potential is in the NBA in Duke's system. I think we've seen guys like Jahlil Okafor, RJ Barrett, who was good in the Duke system, but has taken an incredible jump, especially in his shooting in the NBA.
Like I've mentioned to Dave numerous times, Coach K's job is not to get you to the NBA; it's to win games. He's not John Calipari.
Yeah, and I think the wing point you bring up is pretty fair. I think a guy like James Bouknight, who I'm very low on compared to other people, I think they call him a walking bucket. And I go, okay, what else does he do for me? And he does nothing else for you, especially when it's shooting streaky.
If you need a scoring wing or a scoring 2 guard, you're going to fall in love with that and want it.
Yes, one in the draft though. There's so many different wings that have upside in that area and other potentials that he's fallen so much in my board. I feel most people.
Because I'll say this, we're saying wing for Bouknight. He's a 2, right? Like okay. Because like wing, that's the thing with me. Wing, is it 2 and 3? Is it just 3 and 4? Is it all 2, 3, 4? Like,
yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think with the point guard point you brought up was fair too, because I think most of my ranks would be the same, except I think I have Giddey at 3 and Trey Mann at 4. I think Trey Mann is one of the underrated guys. I love Trey Mann's game. I think he does so many different things well. His ability, his burst is it's NBA ready already. His ability to get to the rim and his shooting form is great. So he's somebody who's getting slept on by a lot of people. Jalen Johnson, Moses Moody. I like Moses Moody just as like he's a very safe pick. He's going to walk into the NBA and be an NBA player. I don't know what his upside is. But as for his longevity and ability just to stay on the court and be a solid player, that's what he's going to be for you. Jared Butler, I mean, you talked about him. He's, again, you're taking him for his defense and nothing else. That's basically him. Jaden Springer's climbed up a lot of people's boards. I still have him 15
Butler
to 20.
falls because of that? Like,
Yeah.
Butler's not going to be someone that, like, goes... Because, like, to me, I don't think they go point guard, but the one team inside, like, above where he's at on big boards that I would love his fit is the Kings, but yet again, they got Tyrese Halliburton and Fox there. Plus, they need to free Fox because Fox ain't going to be successful on that team. But, like, is Butler going to be someone that goes to, like, the Lakers where Tankathon has him? Because no team above where he's projected is going to be like, hey, I'm going to use a top 15 pick on a guy for his defense.
Yeah, I think you could see that situation. I think I've always had him in the late teens, and that's probably where he'll stay. His defense is incredible, and that's what he's going to bring to a team. And especially that's for a playoff contending team, that is huge. For a rebuilding team who's looking for talent, I'm not sure that's exactly what you want. Say like a Patrick Beverly for a Clippers or a Matisse Thybulle for the Sixers. Those are big pieces for contenders, but for a team that's like the Timberwolves or the Warriors, not the Warriors, the Timberwolves or like the T-Wolves. I said the T-Wolves twice. Any non-contending team doesn't really need a Jared Butler. They need somebody with upside who has the ability to turn into one of their main options offensively and maybe defensively or both. Yeah. Jared Butler is a guy who was going to walk into a rotation on a contending team and just play a defensive guard off the bench.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll ask you because Kyler Murray brings it up in Twitch chat. Thoughts on Keon Johnson? Because to me, I will say right now, Keon is one of the guys I have to watch more of because every time I watch Tennessee, I was focusing on Jaden Springer.
That's fair. I love Keon Johnson. I think he was 6 on my big board. He reminds me a lot of a smaller Jaylen Brown. He's incredible shooting. He has an ability to drive to the basket, and he kind of looks like a Ron Artest, honestly, with how physical he is in the paint and his rebounding ability. A Ron Artest or a smaller Jaylen Brown is really what he looks like. He's going to have to work on his ball handling, which everybody knows. His playmaking and his shooting are good. They're just work in progress. So Keon Johnson isn't somebody I think walks in the league and dominates, but he has massive potential. It doesn't get talked about enough because of how good the top 4 is in this draft. It's Keon Johnson, Josh Giddey, Kuminga if you want to throw him in there, and Jalen Johnson. Who's the other one I'm thinking of? Scotty Lewis.
Barnes.
Scotty Lewis.
Scotty Lewis, Florida, second rounder.
Yeah, those are the guys that aren't getting talked about enough who still have. Like, Keon Johnson has massive potential. He's just not NBA ready right away.
The one who I will say, like, because to me also, like, the point guard and the 4s, 1s and 4s, I think are kind of similar and the same in this draft class, being that we have our top, Cade Cunningham and Suggs for the point guards, Evan Mobley for the 4s, to where it's like there are guys, one of them we watched together. You were like, okay, who's a prospect we should watch? Or no. You asked me what this prospect. You're like, have you seen his tape? And I'm like, no, we just got off of the NFL draft. I haven't dove into it yet. And we watched it, and I want him to succeed at the NBA level. It's just is he going to be in a situation where, like, on a big board he's 28, but he goes top 20, maybe even top 15, is Usman Garaba, where we were watching that, and I remember you backtracked, and you're like, oh my God, the disrespect this guy has on defense for people. Like, disrespect in a good way, to where it's like, it's almost like if you feel like you could teach him, he's got the motive. It's kind of like I look at, yet again, I'm not comparing him to this, I'm just similar situations. It's like you look at Joel Embiid. You can't teach Joel Embiid's attitude and how he comes after the game, but you can teach his fundamentals. And like you've even said, where Joel Embiid, like last year, he was playing too fast. Now he's kind of like, he's slowed the game down for himself. Garaba's one to where it's like, after watching his film, I want him to work, and I want him to find a
Yeah.
good home in the NBA.
Yeah, I love Usman Garuba. I think the direct comparison is if you only count half of the court as Draymond Green. I think defensively, he's an undersized big, but his rim protection is unbelievable for his size, and translating, hopefully it does. But the difference is that he actually, I mean, I guess it's not complete difference with Draymond. Is he has a very good shooting form. Will he find consistency in his shot is the question, but his ability to even just be able to stretch the court a little bit with how good defensively he is. Lateral quickness, he's there. I mean, I remember watching one of his plays when he full court pressed a guy, lost him, and then caught back up to him, and then swatted the shot from somebody else. Like that's unbelievable recovery, and he's a stud in basically every single way. I love his game. I think I know our boy Retro, shout out, Usman Garuba was in like his top 10. And I don't think.
What do you think about what Ant says? He sees an upgraded Paul Millsap in Garuba.
That's fair. If he ever reaches Paul Millsap, I think that's I think a very big compliment because I think Paul Millsap is a very underrated NBA player for much of his career.
And like Ant
I
says,
think he's
he'd have
great
to develop his shot for that to come
Yes,
true.
that's the number one thing is his defense is going to come in and be NBA ready. It just obviously fouls are going to be the issue with him. Watch the fouls. NBA ready defensively, especially on ball and recovery underneath. His shooting finds any type of consistency. If he ever shoots 35% from three, he's going to be a consistent NBA player for a long time.
Because, like, the other thing, too, is, like, I've got both of the bigs kind of up, the 4s and the 5s.
Yeah.
And, like, for me, if I was kind of looking through it, like, Evan Mobley's obviously 1. The interesting thing at 2 is, would you have Barnes or Segun as the second big off the board? 4 and 5s together, obviously. Like, if we're talking big board, would you say, like, Segun or Barnes would be rated higher?
What about Scotty Barnes?
Yeah, Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes for me. I think Scotty Barnes. Segun, I'll be honest, I haven't watched a lot of him. I've seen a little bit of him.
I mean, I know you just said you haven't watched a lot of him, but, like, do you think he's bona fide top 10? Like, is he going to be someone that's, like, top 10? Or because he plays the center, does he slide a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know if he's bona fide top 10, especially with how much wing talent there is in this draft. I could easily see Segun fall into the teens, late teens, early 20s. I think maybe big board wise, but honestly, like his upside to me, I don't want to bring up such a negative name in terms of the NBA, but he reminds me a lot of Tyler Hansborough, but a little bulkier. So, is that a negative?
Hey, man,
no,
I wanted the Bulls to get fucking Psycho T when he was coming out of college.
I mean, he's not like a... He's very good at making himself available in the post from what I've watched, and he's very... He has a wide base, and he's strong. So, that's good. He has slow feet, and he has slowish movements. Yeah. So I don't know how good his pick and roll defense will be in the NBA. I'm not a big fan. I definitely rate Usman Garuba higher than I rate Segun. Yeah. And I definitely rate higher Scotty Barnes.
One thing I will say, I do agree with Ant in Twitch chat where he says he's like, this draft class is unbelievable from top to bottom. Where basically it's like, I agree with that to the fact of like, this is the first time in May, Jake, to where I want to talk about second round prospects more than the top 5. Like Dave and you have talked about, like, I'm looking at guys like I was going to say his name when we brought up bigs. Like I can't go a podcast without saying his name. Naminas Quaida. Like I want to talk about Quaida. Like we've talked about Quaida, Dosunmu, Knicks, Garuba is down there, Cam Thomas, Ayayi, to where it's like, I can't remember a draft that we did on the fast break where Dave, Sean, and I in May were talking about second round picks and lower end first round picks more than we were talking about the top 5, top 10.
Yeah, I love this draft. I think it's very similar to last year's. People obviously shot down last year's draft class as a good one, but role player wise, and I mean, like, how much talent you find in the late first. I think it's very similar to this year. I think this year's is loaded with late end like rotation talent right away in the NBA. I mean, I'll bring him up because we haven't mentioned him, but Rokas Jokubaitis we've watched this tape together. He is like,
I was trying to not be like hey, we just watched it. Now I got to talk about.
I'll bring up Rokas Jokubaitis because he took a giant jump on my board. He looks like a slower Goran Dragic, which I get. His first step is basically the only difference between him and Goran Dragic in my mind. Yeah. So I think he's going to probably be a late first, early second talent, and he's going to be an absolute steal for whoever gets him.
So, Soapy has a question. I have
Yeah.
not watched his film enough because two reasons. One, didn't watch enough Kentucky basketball. Right now, I am taking a hiatus from Kentucky basketball because as an Illini fan, I do not like them right now. Thoughts on Isaiah Jackson?
Yeah, he's a very puzzling one to me. Definitely a project. His athleticism is not going to be questioned. That's what is got him to this point, basically. He's definitely the perfect four size. He has. See, he's explosive and he has like flashes of what he can be. I'm just not sure exactly what his upside is. He reminds me of a lot.
Says Nerlens Noel all over it. He said, in his opinion.
Maybe I don't know. I see a lot of the same similarities that I saw with Chris McCullough at Syracuse, so that's a little bit worrisome. But he's a freak athlete. If he can find some consistency in his game, then I could see him being a very good player. I'm not sure exactly where I'd rank him in my board. I like Jeremiah Robinson Earl more than I like him, so that's where it kind of comes into question.
Jake, Kyler Murray speaking my language. You want to know why?
No.
I may need a cold shower after this podcast, after the question that he just asked. He said, since you're an Illinois guy, what about Kofi Cockburn? Is he going to realize he won't get drafted and head back to Illinois again? I love Kofi Cockburn, and it's not just because I'm an Illinois guy. Like, he is somebody to where you look at his size, you look at his body, and you go, I can teach that. I can mold him into what I want to be. Now, do I hope he comes back to Illinois this year? God, yes, we need him. We need him more than ever. I seriously think, though, he will come back, though, because when you noticed, like, when they said he declared for the draft, he never signed an agent. So I think this is him. His goal is the NBA. I feel like he's going to go through the process. He's going to get evaluations. Unless he gets something like a weird promise that is like, I can't pass this up. I think he will be back in Illinois for a year to get better and to basically control the Big Ten now that Luka Garza is no longer there, even though Kofi Cockburn kind of made Luka Garza his bitch this year. That's me throwing some slander at Iowa. I fucking love him, Jake. His body to me, it's just one of those things where you look at a guy, it could be any guy anywhere, and you go, if I can teach him fundamentals and if I can teach him how to play the game, he's got the body, he's got the defensive instincts, he's got the rebounding instincts. I cannot wait to see what he is going to be. I just think he needs to go back to college for one more year. Go get your draft prospects going out right now, see what the scouts say, come back to college, and then seriously look at the draft next year.
Yeah, I think he's very similar to Steven Adams. I'm not sure exactly if he'll ever reach that upside.
I actually like that comp, though.
Yes, Steven Adams. I think not great at anything offensively. He has a little hook shot that he can do. He can catch oops, which is exactly what Adams does, and he's a fierce at the rim. So I think that's what it is. The only worry as an Illinois fan is that a team in the late first who's a contender might throw a promise at him just because if you see his body and you see his length and you see his size, you know that he can be an NBA player if you can mold him into it. So that's the only worry. I would think he probably goes back, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. I think defensive upside for him is massive, though, in the NBA.
And Ann agrees with you. He likes Rocco. He says he can definitely be a contender for steal of the draft.
Yeah, I like he's speaking my language.
Any other guys that we haven't mentioned that you feel like we should? Oh, do we have to mention why you're so low on Jonathan Kuminga?
No, we'll save that for another segment.
I'm like, have we talked about that enough yet?
We'll save it for another segment.
Because I will say, you don't have to give exactly where. He is not top 10 for you?
He is. Actually, no. Yeah, he just fell out. He's 11.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought you were saying he wasn't top 10. So, that's one to where it's like, I can't wait to get into. Now we're going to get into, after, the playoffs and stuff, all the individual, niche conversations, like I mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned this on Twitch. I said to you beforehand, one of the segments we have planned for the future is Evan Mobley versus JG4. That has to be a Jake Dave discussion.
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of in lieu to like when we did the Markelle Fultz versus Lonzo Ball, where I was the hard Lonzo stan. Dave was kind of in the middle, but he loved Markelle. Sean was all over Markelle, and it was basically like Dave was on the side of Markelle with Sean. I was on the Lonzo side, although Dave did like Lonzo and Markelle. He was a Markelle guy through and through. I can't wait for those conversations. But thank you guys for being as awesome as you are. That's going to do it for MVP Sports Live today. Make sure to follow us on YouTube, MVP Sports. As of May 24th, we will just be there doing live streams. So we got one more week of us on Twitch before we make that move over to YouTube full time. If you want to join the Discord, if you're not in, it's the greatest community in the universe. You can talk basically what we did today, guys. You can do in the Discord every single day. It's amazing. Link down below or exclamation Discord into Twitch chat gets you that link. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids. That's how you go ahead and do that. Thank you to our Patreon sponsor, Pat Hill. Thank you to Jake. Like, me and you have done a lot of shows this week, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I only did 2.
No, you did 3. I thought, I did a lot of
No,
shows.
you did a lot.
I did one with Dave and then
day.
one with Soapy.
Yeah.
That's right. Right. We will get a Jake and Soapy show, by the way. It
Maybe.
will happen. I might force one now next week because, it's just,
That's fine.
It's got to happen.
It's fine.
But that will do it for us. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll see you on Monday. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.